Check it out.
Thank you for that introduction, and thank you, attendees. I'm very happy to be here again with the PausFest community. Last year, around this time, I had more or less just returned from PausFest in Melbourne, where I was part of a panel discussion, Get the World Moving Through Sports Tech. The pandemic hit and then lockdown, and things really changed for me as it did for, I'm sure, all of us. But the shift really crystallized some things for me, and I'm going to share that with you today. What I'm going to talk about today is design for humanistic values. And what does that mean? Humanistic values, humanistic design. Well, the truth is I'm still figuring out, but I'm going to let you or tell you about how I'm thinking about it, at least. So I think of myself as a humanistic designer. I'm putting humanity at the center of my work as a challenge I have accepted for myself. Now, I've stepped it up a bit in this world through the work I've done in recent years as Global Director of Innovation at Puma, but I'm stepping it up a notch. I will be guided primarily, if not wholly, by that focus, by that passion. I will talk more about that, but before I do, I want to tell you a bit about my journey to becoming a designer in the first place. Now, I was born into a multicultural, multilingual family. My mother is German, my father's American, so my immediate environment was different than the average American family. Yet there was a lot of sameness in the world around me, and I often felt like I didn't quite fit in. As a result, I developed a keen awareness and a sense of the other. You could say empathy was baked into me from the start. I lived on 2 continents and 4 cities by the time I was 7. At a young age, my experiences were vast. And so I saw things differently because I had seen different things. And I converted this foundation into a career as a designer. You know, empathy and seeing things differently are the lifeblood of creativity, of problem solving, of replacing the same with the new. But there was something else that helped shape me to be the particular designer that I became, and that was my love of sports. I played almost all of them. I was drawn to non-traditional sports, partly because they were available to me as I grew up in an affluent setting, but also because I was keen on breaking the mold, doing what I wanted to do or what interested me and not what others expected me to do or be good at. Black people weren't supposed to be on a ski team or a swim team, but I was. Alongside doing the sports, I loved the equipment. The more specialized, the better. My first pair of sport-specific shoes were these football cleats that you see on the screen here. I would later work for the company that produced them. But part of the draw for me was the athlete endorsement, the romance of it all. I believed that having these shoes could make me run as fast as O.J. Simpson. Well, that was a good thing at the time. But I would later shape experiences like this one through the products I designed and the brands for which I worked. And then I discovered design, and that changed my life. I studied at Carnegie Mellon, where I had a fantastic experience. What I absolutely loved about it was the interdisciplinary environment, my connection to outstanding thinkers and doers of so many fields: art, drama, architecture, computer science, business, robotics. I think of it as an incredibly well-rounded excellence factory, Carnegie Mellon. Now, I didn't know exactly what type of design I would do when I started, but I realized soon that I was most intrigued learning about materials and shaping things. And the Carnegie Mellon approach prepared us to be designers who would solve real-world problems within the context of specific materials, technologies, and manufacturing. It has proven to be an invaluable foundation for every angle and era of my career, past, present, and it will be in the future as well. Now, in my second year at Carnegie Mellon, the Mac was launched. And some of you may know that it came with a bag. You could actually carry it around with you. Well, I fell in love with the promise that personal computing could bring. 3 decades later, I would work for the first sports brand to connect a shoe with a computer. I mean, actually connect it with a cable. Now, while at Carnegie Mellon, it was already a computer science powerhouse. Design and computing was still in its infancy. And the school knew computers would be a powerful tool for designers, but None existed yet. Still, they wanted to arm us with the tools that were available and made programming in Pascal, believe it or not, mandatory for designers. While I've never written a line of code since, I grasped the value of solving problems using binary code to break things down to their absolute essence. And so the experience of my early life and my university experience amounted to this mashup of interests: sports, design, and technology. And after I graduated, I found myself, or I was hired as a footwear designer for a brand called Saucony. I entered the realm of product design for athlete performance. The product I designed had to serve a specific function for sport. It was a dream. And I've done quite a lot since. Analog products, connected products, products that were developed with sophisticated digital technology, footwear, apps, also apparel, both analog and connected. And these are all focused on human performance, the body in action. Now, what I want to share with you now is some work that is a literal take on humanistic design, an approach to addressing human performance. At Puma Innovation, we partnered with a company called, or a design studio called Atacak out of Sweden. And their approach to humanistic design is called kinetic garment construction. And there's three principles that the methodology adheres to. And that is looking at body movement, the body's skin lines and how it's draped over muscles, and then taking that information and it informs how fabric is draped and the patterns are created for apparel. And if you look at these two images, this highlights the difference. You see a traditional pattern on the left and on the right, a kinetic pattern. And if you look closely, you can see the differences. The traditional pattern is rectilinear, and the kinetic pattern starts to take on more the shape of contours of the body. And that's the important difference. And how we leverage that, for example, is in the patterning of Formula One driver's suits. Now, at Puma, we outfitted many of, if not most of the Formula One drivers, including Lewis Hamilton. And what we did when we innovated around that was we observed Lewis in his cockpit. Atacak shaped the garments accordingly, and then made the garments. And what you can see here on the right is a garment that is pre-shaped in the position of the driving position. And so what that does is it allows Lewis to sit in his cockpit and be uninterrupted and extremely comfortable, and so that he can focus on driving. And another byproduct of this approach, if you look at the pattern here, it's a very unusual pattern. It's very biomorphic. And in the end, what it allows is for fewer pattern pieces, and it's a sustainable story as well. So there's a lot of benefits to this methodology. Now, we, like other brands, approached esports as well, and we used the same methodology here. We observed esports gamers, professional gamers, and they also want as little disruption as possible. They want to be able to focus. After all, millions of dollars are at stake for these players. So I'm going to show you a little video that shows the result of the kinetic patterning for esports. So this approach to apparel was the foundation for all of the esports teams, the first one being Cloud9, but all of the esports teams that Puma outfitted. We created this ecosystem that could be mixed and matched according to what they needed, what was going on game day, traveling, etc. So I'm proud of the work that I've done, and still I seek to find ways that I can make the world a better place. And I've gone through a bit of transformation in crystallizing that belief. And these are some of the things that have influenced me. About 3 years ago, a little longer, I came across the Copenhagen Letter. And it was a call to arms to designers to embrace the power we have to do good. It called for a commitment to do so, to move from human-centered design to humanity-centered design, Now, I signed the letter. It inspired me to be more invested in this through my professional work. Most recently, COVID-19 has influenced how I think about things. And, the first months experiencing the lockdown forced reflection. And I was struck by how focused we were on getting back to normal business, to normal life. But what was that? I mean, I questioned what I'm supposed to be doing. What impact should I and can I make? And this is my definition of humanistic design, excuse me, that we're driven to design for humanity, not only for consumers and markets. Excuse me. Now, I'd like to share with you some of the work that I have done that lives up to this commitment and to these values. In 2017, it marked the partnership that emerged between Puma Innovation and the MIT Design Lab. It was a research relationship. We would brief the lab on specific projects that were of interest to us, and they would also introduce us to new topics of new fields of research and technology. And one of the topics was biodesign. My immediate reaction when they mentioned biodesign was, that sounds great. What is it? And it is using nature as a design tool, as a way to shape products and experiences. We did a number of workshops and came to develop some areas of exploration which set us apart in the space of biodesign. Example, these are 4 projects that we worked on. The deep learning midsole, it responded to the chemistry of your skin. Bacteria was impregnated in the insole and it reacted to your sweat, and it could tell you something about your fatigue or your readiness level. Carbon eaters were stickers that gave you a read on air quality. The adaptive packaging biodegrades after use. And the breathing shoe uses bacteria to create a custom ventilation pattern. All of this was totally new territory, and we wanted to broadcast it. We showed at the Milan Design Week. We had a very modest exhibit. We displayed the experiments, and we got a really good reaction. Well, what we wanted to do, though, was bring it to another level of real. And so the following year, we decided to focus on one concept and to bring the concept of the breathing shoe closer to reality. How did we do that? What we did is we partnered with the Fraunhofer Institute to develop the bacteria for real. And once again, we exhibited at the Milan Design Week, this time calling our exhibit Bioevolution. And we had experiments inside the exhibit. We showed the real bacteria that was grown. And again, we developed it much further. And in 2020, we took it yet another step. We made plans once again to exhibit at Milan Design Week, but in a bigger way. And we collaborated with 2 partners who were as committed to biodesign as we were. Now, Design to Vade exhibited those concepts virtually. And the idea is that these concepts come from nature and merge with nature rather than assault it. I'm going to show you just one of the concepts, and that is that of streamateria. So I'm going to play another video.
Streamateria is a textile-like material that is compostable, that has a short lifespan and that can be experienced rather than owned. Our ambition with streamateria is to create clothes that you can temporarily produce and manufacture, but you cannot keep them because they are based on the same idea as the forest. Looking at the forest, it will produce a leaf, the leaf will fall, it will disintegrate, it will become nutrients to another party, and further along the line it will become a tree again. So we need to work with materials that can give you this textile-like garment experience, but that can also close the loop as fast as the forest, or even faster. The idea of constructing the material in this way came actually from a disintegrating leaf that we found in the street. You know, when you see an old leaf that is gone dry and the tissue's falling apart and it just has the small veins left. Right now we're doing a collab with Puma Innovation where we are exploring the possibilities of creating a Puma designed a running singlet with stream material and our process.
When we create our garments, we create something we call the mesh. We actually print it. We use a starch-based filament for making these meshes. Meshes are like veins in a leaf. So we make a skeleton, so to speak, and then we use a bioplastic that has different components. Some from forest and some from other parts of food industry. Once we've done the mesh, which is still two-dimensional, we take it out from the printer, and then in the foaming setup, we apply a bioplastic foam. These two together create a textile-like garment tissue. And the last stage is to weld these together, and we weld it with heat because our materials can be melted. If you look at the leaf, the veins in the leaf will decide what kind of shape it has. We will do the same thing, but for garments. The mesh will decide that part of the performative experience, and then we will make a bioplastic that gives you the actual skin experience, and even can have added functions, what we call biofunctions.
The garment contains glycerol, an alcohol that absorbs water and sweat on the body. We are exploring the possibilities of creating a thermoregulating function that cools the runner. So it's all about performance, the performance of the garment. If you can't keep it in the wardrobe, what benefits can you as a consumer get from the garment?
Puma becomes a hard case with actual runners in running tops and running shorts. So we've had to address issues with how do we make these performance clothes function? And that's accelerated the innovation process for us.
Puma Innovation have contributed to this collaboration, of course, with the design expertise and their brand knowledge and their innovative skills. But for us, or for me personally, mostly with their strong visionary beliefs and their boldness in how to transform the society or the business towards a renewable one. If we are to be a renewable society, we need to implement time in our products eventually. It's not really a necessity that it has to have a short life. It's rather than we need to look upon it that it could have. And if you see how the forest works, an oak tree can live for 1,000 years and a small insect for a day. It's not up to the oak tree nor the insect to decide how long it may live. It's up to the ecosystem of the forest. This is pretty simple, really. Instead of keeping your clothes in your wardrobe, you can just pick up your phone and order them pretty much as you order food to be printed, and then you can pick them up at the print store, or you can get them delivered to wherever you are. You can wear your garments whenever you want to wear them, and once you're done with them, you just put them in the food compost to become energy, not waste.
These are some of the efforts that I've been behind in terms of humanistic design and humanistic values. Now, I really, I see this as the era's biggest opportunity is designing for humanity. And this is the challenge I'm accepting for myself. And that is the challenge I put before you. Thank you very much.